I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
What kind of encouraging things are you saying to your children that is building them up and building their self-esteem? I was listening to a program last week where a chaplain who was leading a service at the prison said to his congregation, "How many of you were told by your dads that you would end up in prison?" And almost all of them raised their hands. Now, I taught at a school once where the teacher would reprimand the kids by saying, "Y'all gonna end up in prison." And I remember thinking, that is not helpful. That is not going to give them the kind of encouragement they need to want to build better lives. They're going to rise to the occasion that you've given them. I remember in school, my teacher, Mrs. Moody, used to get on the class clowns, and she would make a comment like, "You all gonna end up old, toothless, and drunk on the corner." And do you know that when I went to one of my friends' funerals, 3 of them, Daryl, Eugene, and Henry, looked like old, broken down men, toothless and raggedy. And I thought, oh my goodness, Mrs. Moody's predictions came true. What things are you saying to your children that's going to build them up? The tongue can be an evil thing. You can make a comment that can totally destroy a child. And you need to say things that are going to build your child. What does the Bible say? The tongue is a restless evil. You can control horses and oxen, but you can't control your tongue. And a tongue will set a forest on fire by the evil things that come of it. What are you doing to build up your children and not tear them down?
I think that a lot of parents believe that if you say negative things, that's going to encourage your child to prove you wrong. I remember our mother telling us that this is what she experienced as a child. Teachers in school that would maybe call the students dumb or, say if they get an answer wrong, kind of embarrass them. And this was supposed to be the way that this would encourage you to strive harder to prove the teacher wrong. I've seen a lot of teachers that use that method. I've seen a lot of parents that use that method, the negative motivation method. And for some people that may work, but I've found that also, well, for those people who say, they've had to try really hard to prove themselves, usually there's some other kind of personality disorder that comes with that, because you never really prove yourself in your own mind because you're always working against the people who have tried to put you down. And I found that positive reinforcement is a lot more effective, but I have witnessed a lot of my friends who teach, I've witnessed that negative motivation, which really isn't motivation. And a lot of times the child does end up living down to your predictions or up to your predictions. If you tell them, you're going to be nothing, you're going to end up in jail, you're going to be a dropout, you might have a few that say, well, I'm going to prove them wrong, I'm going to really try hard. But you have a whole lot more that say, yeah, I guess I'm nothing. And I mean, how do parents realize that they may be using that negative method because it was used on them? How do you recognize when you're actually doing that to your own child?
We talk a lot about and derisively about participation trophies. Every kid gets a trophy just for showing up, and how we need to do more to make sure that people earn, whatever they're given. The one thing you do not need to earn is your parents' love and support. Your parents brought you into this world either by birth, by adoption, accepting you into guardianship, foster care, however your parent is parenting you. You deserve, by your existence, to be supported, loved, and believed in. And that is just part of being a parent. And in our culture, we tend to revisit our trauma. And we have been traumatized for 400 years. But we revisit our trauma on our own children. And we don't tell them, you are my gift from God. You are my hope for the future. The reason why enslaved people could continue to have their children, even if they didn't know if they would be able to raise them, was because that was the hope that someday we would be free. That someday came when we got a Black woman as our first lady who came from enslaved people. And we need to remember that encouraging our children is what motivates them, not discouraging them by telling them they're stupid, they're ugly, they're worthless, they're going to end up in jail, they're bad. I remember there was once a woman who came who was there with her husband, who was fixing something in my mother's house. And the little boy was, I want to say 2.5 maybe. And the young mother kept saying, well, he's bad. And I says, please don't say that. He's not bad. He is age appropriately curious. And he is showing that he is intelligent because he is curious of his surroundings. So don't tell him he's being bad. And that's what we tell our children. We tell our children when they are being appropriately curious, when they are having an appropriate meltdown, that they're being bad. They're being children. And we need to remember that our children are precious. And that's the thing, is that we have to get out of that slave mentality of denigrating our children and into that slave mentality of, you are our hope for our future, that one day we will be free. I remember, and I'm going to mention my favorite television show, FBI, and there was an episode where one of the main characters was tasked to be an undercover and pose as someone else because he was Egyptian and all this stuff. And the person who was supposed to be helping him had been one of his teachers and had denigrated him the whole time, telling him he was going to get his partner killed. And the character and the actor, Ezekiel Zaki, who is a Muslim American, and he is Egyptian American, had said at this time, why did you ride me so hard? Well, this man had seen something special in him, and he wanted to make him prove himself. So he kept telling him, you need to quit. And the man told him, that didn't work with my own son either. And he didn't have any relationship with his son because he used that method of negative encouragement. And it was an interesting dynamic because obviously Agent Zidane got the job done, but it was that hurt that he had carried this whole time from someone saying, you're not good enough. Stop telling our kids you're not good enough. They're not just good enough, they're everything.
Yes.
I think that the most important thing for parents to do, as you said, Cheryl, to move out of that kind of negative reinforcement that was visited on us, other people, over time. There's an article in this month's Parents Magazine about how to encourage your child through difficulties, through them just learning things, through their natural curiosity, and how to embellish the strengths they have. One of the examples they gave was that when your child is having a hard time doing something, they're struggling with it, use that occasion to remind them of some effort they made in something else in which they succeeded. Don't say, oh, you can't do that and that's no good and blah, 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 blah. Say something that is going to reinforce their strengths, that they're trying to accomplish something. And it could be anything from a homework problem to putting together a puzzle. I don't know where that attitude came from, that if you say something bad about your kid, that's going to make them want to prove themselves. It's just going to beat them down. That's what people do when they're putting someone else in bondage. That's what bullies do. You know, you say the mean thing, you say the awful thing, and instead of the person thinking, oh, I'm going to prove to you that I'm not like that, something in them is broken. You know, a bruised reed he will not break. You know, that's from Isaiah, talking about God who will restore a person. If you are bruised, you are not going to be broken. That little light is going to be given more fire to help them along. And if you are a parent who is used to using that kind of method, change your mind about that. Say something kind to your child that is going to encourage them, that is going to build them up. Because if you don't do it, who will?
I hear a lot of parents that use that negative encouragement or just really hostile language. And even when you try to correct them, like you did with the lady that called her son bad, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Even after I've done it, the parents will still, yeah, he's still bad. I mean, even when you explain it and you show an example and you say, oh, he's so intelligent. Oh, he's probably going to be, like, you see them maybe trying to, maybe they're trying to figure out something, and they're fiddling with some electronics or something like that. And so the parent will say something like, oh, you're so bad. And if I say something like, oh, he's really intelligent. Oh, he's probably going to be an engineer. I see he's trying to take apart that radio. You know, I try to set the example. And even after that, the parent will still go back and reinforce the negative. And it's the hardest thing to get them to hear you and consciously change the habit, because that's the only thing they know. And sometimes it's frustrating because you don't want to reprimand a parent in front of their child, but at the same time you want to say, would you just stop? You know,
I know.
I'm trying to show you how to do this.
Yeah. but that's true. That's true. It's like you have to be the gentle one who says, oh, you know what? You may think of this as bad, but I see a light in this person. I see curiosity. I see intelligent reasoning. I see this. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson has done that, and we know who he is. He's an astrophysicist. He's brilliant, and he had talked about children, you know, like spilling things or you know, fight, you know, well, they're learning about gravity or making noise. They're learning about these things, and he couched it in a way of, you are curious about the world and you have a theory, and now you're proving it. And it's interesting because one of the more intelligent people on the planet doesn't see this as bad behavior. So why are we seeing it as bad behavior? And it's very frustrating to see that, but we all know hurt people hurt people. And we are traumatized, and we have been traumatized. And for all the things that we grew up in, I try to do totally different. We didn't grow up hearing I love you. There's not a day that goes by that my daughter doesn't hear I love you. There's not a day that goes by that she doesn't say I love you. Because it's important to hear. Yeah, you know, when we grew up, the idea of parenting was just parenting. you weren't your kid's friend, you weren't their confidant, you were just their parent.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to be my daughter's friend. I'm not. But we are friendly. She is an adult now, so we can be friendlier. I'm always going to be her mom, but I'm not the mom of a 6-year-old. I'm the mom of a 22-year-old, so we can have adult conversations.
Yeah.
We can have adult adventures together.
Right.
And we can express that love, because I will tell her, and maybe that's wrong, but I will tell her, you are the center of my universe. You know,
it's important for our children to know that they matter. They're important. I think it's important to say those things that maybe we didn't hear, but also I think it's important to set the example for, because you never know who's watching you when you interact with your child, even out in public. Of course, now, like you say, our children are grown, so there's a different kind of interaction. But I do remember, like, when Zakiya was she was very young. I think we had a party at the house. Matter of fact, we had somebody's wedding at our house, and we were cleaning up afterwards. And I'm running the vacuum, and some of the people stand around, they help and do the dishes and stuff like that. And I'm running the vacuum, and the kids, keep trying to grab the vacuum and everything. And she's running in between and so forth. And I said, "Oh, you want to help?" And so one of my friends said, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting how you did that." And I'd have been saying, "Would you get out of the way?" So,
there is a moment when you have to rethink that. And I think part of the reason that young parents have a hard time maybe with toddlers, they were not, or older children, they were not trained in that way. And I think there are a lot of resources that are available to young parents to learn other methods of redirecting your child, of encouraging your child, because there's way too much of that. I know for myself, I tried to be extremely encouraging to my children when they were younger, because I know the hurt that comes from being told things like, the older you get, the stupider you get, use your head for something besides a hat rack. I mean, these things are laughable when you look back at them, but at the time, they're kind of painful to hear that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And it doesn't really help your child build confidence in themselves and their own abilities. I think a lot of young parents learn by seeing older parents exhibit good encouragement skills. Sometimes these are things you may learn in some kind of parental training, and they have those things available. You can go on YouTube for anything. Look that up. How do I encourage my child? And you will find all kinds of methods that will give you skills and steps to move away from negative reinforcement, which isn't reinforcement at all. Really, it is damaging behavior. It is damaging. It's a damaging way to try to teach your child to do better, learn better, and have confidence in themselves.
And if you want something that's more centered around, Black families, because there are some things that we do that are different, some good, not bad. I'm not sure if the name of the book is Raising Black Children or if it's about Black parenting, but the author is my daughter's former first pediatrician, and her name is Anne, A-N-N-E, Beal, B-E-A-L, and she wrote a book about Black parenting. I encourage anyone, I went and bought it. I encourage anyone to go out and find it. You could probably find it on Amazon, like the rest of the world is on Amazon, or find it somewhere. Maybe it's in a independent bookstore, always good. But, there are resources for us, because we have our own way of doing things. We've talked about corporal punishment on here, but a lot of the things that we do, there are just a lot of negativity that have been visited upon us. The whole thing, get any of us in a room and Black women can talk about the torture of getting our hair done when we were little. Even my daughter can talk about that, even though I tried not to be torturous because she's tender-headed like me. So there is a lot of things that we do that we don't necessarily think of as triggering, but they're triggering. And if you tell a child that they're stupid when they're little, or they can't get anything right, or what's wrong with you, or all those kinds of things, you're only extending the trauma that has been passed down.
Yeah.
You're passing down that trauma instead of saying, you know what? It's like the whole thing with us deciding not to drink. This ends with me. This cycle of alcoholism ends with me. This cycle of psychological trauma ends with me. This cycle of saying, you know, the older you get, the stupider you get, or not saying I love you. This ends with me. I'm going to be the parent that I wished I had.
Right. And a lot of people who talk about, you know, older and, you know, grandma, and you since the world is trying to talk about we didn't work because of the way our parents were, they strong, they great from people didn't know how to protection. Know how to their children and their children parent, you know, they didn't know how to love. And this is a lot of our are still existing.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, and if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. Friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, childcare services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link, and tomorrow you can sit back and relax at home while your business is making you money.
Welcome to Masterforce with Mushim Suit. Join us each week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central, live on Facebook and YouTube on the Female Solution page, as we dive into powerful topics designed to assist you in mastering your life force. Our conversations feature a diverse lineup of experts, all dedicated to your growth. Tune in weekly to discover new ways to elevate your spirit and raise your vibration. And remember, we are ascending.
What's up, guys? It's Osada, the host of the Gathering of the Griots podcast, part of the Female Solution. Want you to join us every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And guess what we do? We interview authors of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. The books, the experiences, the lifestyles, all of it with fervor. So be there right on the Soulful Chicago Book Fair YouTube page or on the Female Solution Facebook page. We look forward to having you and all our literary essence. Peace.
In which we're doing this documentary for Douglas Robinson, Your Death Will Not Be in Vain.
He was a heck of a great dude.
And I love Doug. Doug loved me.
Just being around him, he had a good spirit. He was a healing person.
They are there.
Get SROs back.
When you give to the poor,
should not be forced out of their neighborhoods when it goes through a period of transformation.
Because there are too many people who are losing their homes to taxes because they can't pay a $1,000 tax bill.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.